Good morning. I'm Steve Wolf, Wholesale Marketing Associate for Sprague.
And I'm Joel Williams, Director of Wholesale Fuels here at Sprague.
Welcome to Sprague's Refined Products Review, where we discuss what's moving the market and giving you the insight into what we see every day. Well, Joel, let's start with something in the news this week. Venezuela. What are your thoughts on this and how will it impact the oil markets?
Oh yeah, obviously it's the big topic coming out of this week. So far, the reaction's actually been pretty muted. Crude was up a little bit, but not very much. Chevron's stock jumped a bit. That was probably the biggest thing we saw. But we didn't see nearly the type of reaction that you would often see to a major geopolitical event with an oil producer like this. There really were a couple of reasons for that. One is that this really was sort of a foregone conclusion when the U.S. put that much military assets around Venezuela. The end game, the market kind of had interpreted what that would mean. And then as for the actual military operation itself, it was quick. So we kind of got to where the market thought we were going to get to pretty quickly. So therefore, most of the price action had already been baked in. So that's why we're not seeing a ton of craziness this week so far to start.
What can we expect to see? You think there's any additional impact here in the near term?
We certainly avoided the worst case scenario, which was that this was going to be a back and forth military conflict where obviously lives would have been lost and economies and countries would have been ruined. So it was good that things kind of were done very quickly. But having said that, we still, there's a lot of unknowns at this point. How the U.S. installs the new government and how that is allowed to happen really is still vague at this point. So the markets will be heavily watching that, and largely what they'll be looking for is how long and what does a new stable government in Venezuela look like, and then beyond that, the important thing for the oil markets is really how quickly can years of economic neglect be reversed, and can we see Venezuela start to thrive again?
If things go well, do you see Venezuela increasing production and driving prices down?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in the short term, there's not really a lot of opportunity for that. One is that there's an oversupply of crude in the market already, and predicted
Yeah.
oversupply to even continue growing. So there's not really a need today for that crude in the short term. And then beyond that, the crude that actually comes out of Venezuela, it's sort of a very heavy crude. It's harder to refine. It's harder to move around. So there's not a lot of desire for that crude in the current market. And then when you look at the fact that, quite honestly, it's going to take several billions of dollars just to get that industry back up and running. And with crude prices in the $60 range, there's really not a huge economic incentive right now to pour a ton of money into there and to get that going. So while some people like Chevron, you may see pick up a little bit because they've already got boots on the ground and they've kind of been doing this for a while there, you're not going to see a lot of other investors, chomping at the bit to get in there right away. But what I do think this changes a little bit is the long-term outlook for crude prices, and that it does help sort of put a cap on how high crude prices can go the next time we see a big rally. Because obviously, as crude prices go up, that incentive to invest in Venezuela, assuming there's a stable government, will increase. And it's obviously not at this point, not an OPEC plus country with the new government, most likely. So it would allow, sort of an ability outside of OPEC plus, similar to what the U.S. has done with its production increases, is to sort of cap the amount that we can see these rallies go. So I do think long term it does kind of play a much bigger role than it does in the short term.
Well, thanks for that recap. Is there anything else you want to talk about back here, home in the Northeast?
Yeah, I mean, a few things going on. I think this won't be too much of a surprise to a lot of our viewers and people in this industry is that, it's been a couple tough weeks for delivering oil for the last 2 weeks. I mean, between some of the rain and the ice and the cold, the weather conditions on top of having, two major holidays fall right in the middle of the week, a lot of people have a hard time keeping up. And so, what we're really seeing today is, and what we've been preparing for, quite honestly, is that, the industry is really hitting the road running this week. And I think you can see a lot of people playing catch up and getting themselves up. And that's what we prepared ourselves for. So, the good news is that, resupply is coming in and it's keeping up with demand. And we have plans in place to keep our customers wet and to help you guys as you're running through and doing all your deliveries to keep you wet and going. And so our supply team has done an excellent job of keeping those plans in place. So that's always been good. Beyond that, bio prices right now, they seem to be pretty steady. It's been sort of a mild start to the winter out in the Midwest and not a lot of snow and ice out there. So the rail cars from out there are coming in. And so we're seeing a nice steady supply of bio into this market, which is good news for us in terms of keeping things wet. And, that is something that we will keep an eye on, though, because I will say that, bio is sort of the newer component in our industry, and it's still an evolving and a very fragile part of our supply chain. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. But again, overall, things are going pretty steady right now. But we all know that can change in an instant. So my advice would be to continue to partner with people like Sprague that are going to be able to be there and keep you wet when you need it most. As this winter continues to roar along.
Okay, Joel. Last question. NFL playoffs. Who you got?
All right, this is the good question. Pats, Bills, and the Steelers are all going to win this weekend. And that's going to set up a great matchup next week where the Pats are going to send Aaron Rodgers off into the sunset, and win that game. And I also think the Bills are going to overcome the number 1 seed Broncos, which will be exciting because that's going to set up a wonderful rubber match of an AFC championship game right back here in Foxborough between the Pats and the Bills. And I think if you pressed me right now, I would say that the Super Bowl, you will see Super Bowl MVP Drake May overcome regular season MVP Matt Stafford 38-35, Super Bowl 60. That's my prediction.
Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Joel.
Thank you, Steve.
And that's all for today. Thanks for watching.
Well, we'll be back next Wednesday with another refined products review where you can refine your insight,
fuel your success.
And I'm Joel Williams, Wholesale Director of... Let's start that one again. Quidditch finals. I really think Slytherin's got a strong team this year. Ravenclaw just doesn't seem to have what they used to.